Gerry Thrower is my name. January 7th, 36. In a house down on the east of the station, a big Boone house. It's vacant now. It's a two-story home down there. He used to fish, I think, down at Terrace Bay in the old days, this old Mr. Boone. He's not Charlie or none of that, I don't believe. But anyway, that's supposedly where I was born. 53, sorry, I just don't recall now. My wife's been gone a while. That's a while back too. Evelyn Marie, Helen Gillette. School, high school, dances, way back. 4. Michael Ernest was 1. Karen Elizabeth is a girl, 2nd. 3rd is Craig William. 4th is Carrie Jane. Railroad all the way through. Way back, hired on as summer relief when the regular shop staff went on holidays. They were good enough to hire school kids, which was great. Give us something to do and give us a few bucks. And it was fun, like whatever. We were a bad little bunch in there, but polishing engines and cleaning up, sweeping and doing things like that. It was good. And then I got hired on the running trades in 55 or 56 when I was railroad brakeman. And worked through, and then they offered us an engineer's course, so I went there. And then I retired in 93. Well, I painted the signs of yellow posts around town a couple of times, and I used to make ice in the old arena, the big tin shed. Got pictures of that, I guess, somewhere. And that was a big job because, once the ground isn't froze, you had to give it a bit and let it freeze. And if you put too much on, it would melt and all drain away and all this stuff. And the curling club, we used to do the curling club. We were in heavy with the curling club. I don't know what else. Yeah, just malarkey. I was sitting around one night. It was a mild winter, and I had a little 650 Honda. And I don't know what happened. The light just went, why don't I take a run up the Christmas tree with these lights and the generator? So I went up, and there was a small evergreen tree there at the time. And catastrophe struck a couple of years later. Somebody cut it down, which got Anyway, I went up and decorated the tree a bit, and then I plugged it in, away it went. So I went down and looked at it to see if it had a, sort of a proper, and that's fine. I let it run, and I had to go up some nights twice to fill it because it ran for about 2.5 hours, 3 hours. So anyway, that's how that started. I don't know the exact year. I have films on it though, in my video camera. Well, I don't know if we stuck up something artificial, and then I remember the wife suggesting to the town electrician then, he's since moved away, he lived up with the swimming pools, I believe, I don't know. And Ray Sisson had towers up there and antennas for our TV when it first come in, old black and white stuff. And the line was still there, so we said, why don't you, Hydro will probably do it, run new wires up and hook up electric and put a sensor on that street light so that it comes on at 8 or 9, and that's what they did, I guess. Running off hydro. It's been cut in for, not long, 15 or, it's so big, you have to have a big, And they made the tree up at Terrace Bay, and that was some more little favors with some Schreiber employees of Kimberly-Clark. But anyway, it's up there and it's nice. It's mounted in the ground and it's, I guess, welded together, and they did this, they put side arms out, 4 feet, 3 feet to cone shaped, and strung the lights. Oh God, the south end, which was anything south of the tracks. There was this south of Talcum Powder Road there, which is out in front, them rows of CPR House, that was the 4 blocks of the south end. And we used to play street hockey after school, and Saturday all day. It's just crazy in the winter, street hockey. And in the summer, the Oddfellows, International Order of Oddfellows, I gather, bought us about 9 or 10 gloves and a bunch of hard balls and 4 or 5 bats, and they left them with Conrad Dugan, Jimmy's dad. And it was in the Honeymoon Apartments, what we call that big 4-side or 2-story building up down from the station there, and that was the Honeymoon Apartments, because everybody moved in there was on their honeymoon, whatever. And all we had to do was go down and ask Frida, his wife, could we get the equipment? And sure, we pick it up. The ball field was here. We had an excellent ball field. They had an excellent racetrack. A man by the name of Ellard White, an old railroad brakeman conductor, he got killed later on anyway, but he He had a nice racetrack cinder, you know, hearts, but it was excellent. He was quite a runner himself, so the story goes. I just don't know what degree, but you know, it was around town and around the district. He was a good runner, and it was all fenced off and had a big grandstand. 60 or 80, 90 feet long, 4 tiers high, and you know, it was, and the track was there, and the ball diamond was in front. Everything was great at the ball field. We had a lot of many good years down there. Then they organized our fastball league, which is softball, but you whiplash, you fast pitch the ball, whatever. Yeah, a lot of good. We played a lot of ball in the south end, and especially hockey in the winter. We skated in the ball field when the snow was melting in the spring, or if it was in the fall, whatever degree. You know, it'd melt a bit, and then we put our skates. We had all the weeds are stuck up, so we had to skate for a couple hours because you couldn't carry the puck. But eventually we got it mowed down, and then somebody bought in some concrete moldings about 4 feet high or 5 feet high, 8 feet long from the Kimberly-Clark dam at Terrace Bay, because that was just done 48, 49 when they finished the dam, and we used them for boards for playing hockey down there. It was great. We had a lot of fun. Yeah, well, we run my pretty sheep run and dodge the ball and all that stuff, you know, that kids do. We had no TV, but we had radio, and Hopalong Cassidy and the Lone Ranger and the Inner Sanctum and all them. Probably nobody recognizes those names, but they're in the heyday of radio, and we had no, like I say, no TVs. We had the old great big floor model radios, and you'd fool with it there and pick up, I don't know if Jack Benny was on, Red Scout, maybe, I don't know, but good old programs, you know. That's all there was. Lux Radio Theater, they had different things, you know. It had to be good, because what would you do? Oh, greatly, greatly. There was barely any telephones in town. They called them call girls. The shop over behind, or whatever, in the north end of town by the shop track there, that was the calling bureau for the engineers and firemen, and the conductors and trainmen were in the station. And they got call girls. That was a funny phrase to put on them, but that's what was. They'd get the list, guys would bring them over. They need a crew for 952 at 10 o'clock. Okay, they'd assign an engineer and a fireman off their list, and they'd get the train crew. And they went over and knocked on the doors, and Jerry's called for 10 o'clock, you know, whatever. And that's the way they got around. Then when the phones went in, naturally, it was wonderful, because they didn't have to be out in the cold, the rain, the fog, and it was wonderful. That's many moons ago. And we had an old fire truck there. It was rickety, you know, but it did the job. And in the winter, we'd the snowplow would come around. They had it like an army truck, because it was four-wheel drive, powerful, 1947, 48 or something, and had a blade plow. And we'd wait after snow. We'd wait till they went by and made maybe a 1.5-foot bank, because we knew they were coming again. We'd get behind the bank about 2.5, 3 feet and dig a little trench, and then we'd wait for them to come, and we'd lay in it so the snow would cover. So that was, well, we never got our head clipped, you know, but anyway, yeah, we entertained ourselves, you know, climb the mountain, Lookout Rock up there, Picnic Rock, yeah. And we'd go down to Forest Lake. There was a couple of camps down there and fishing in there. The road to Lake Superior was more or less non-existent, although it was there, but it followed the same contour as it does now, but it was much steeper in places. And the old big cable bridge went just south of town here. It's just a causeway now. It was a huge, big timbers in there, and I guess that's where they maybe bought railroad supplies up and whatever else. I don't know, in the old days. Oh, I like skidooing, I like fishing, hunting, mowing the lawn. Mostly it was hunting and fishing, and you know, and we used to play ball and hockey a lot in the younger years. But now it's just mostly skidooing. Yeah. Gardening, a bit of gardening, not much. Probably some old railroad story, because my dad was a conductor when I was 7 or 8 or 9. But I remember him coming home, and it was after the war sometime. They just installed, they were used to run on strictly train orders and train order offices. They were located at every second or third siding. And but then they put in these block signals, and they were fail-safe. Like if you left one place on a clear signal and the other train got a red, he couldn't leave the other siding because it was red in his face. And if you were following a guy up behind him, you always got a yellow, well, you know he's going. If you get a red, you better be careful because he's not too far ahead of you. So it's, you know, it's all upstairs then, and much easier because it prevented accidents. And the men didn't have to go flagging, which is protecting your train all the time, walking back 600 or 800 yards or whatever it was. Yeah, the block signals were a big thing, I remember that. But other than that, oh, and a few deaths, and all the neighbors' houses there, but long since gone, a lot of them. Yeah. Yeah, my dad was a veteran, and there was a whole bunch of them. They used to have their Legion Armistice Day, November, afternoon powwow, or whatever you want to call it, and then a banquet at night. And they even invited Gino Cacamo. Gino Spadoni, I think, because he was fighting for the Italians who were fighting against him, but they invited him anyway, all the old timers. So he come out, he was good about it, you know, and they had the big banquets. But then for every Legion member, every 10 Legion members, you might have one or two like club members. You just, you know, but there was a couple of big families, and they chewed up all the club members, like we want so and so, you know, went around, and board of directors maybe. But so then finally it opened up better, and you could get in. Like you had to pay the same dues, $10 or something. But at least you could get in before. They didn't mind you going in, but you had to more, like they'd wait at the door, who's letting you in? Somebody had to sign you in. Like it was more, you know. And that teed a lot of people off with that, a lot of the younger people. But anyway, it all worked out in the wash. They've come around. And, yeah, the Legion used to be an old Kimberly Clark office down there. And when they were getting ready or serving, I don't know, but then somehow or other, I guess, the Legion got hold of it, and they put an addition on the back and raised the roof accordingly. But that's all gone now, the old wooden building there. Yeah, pretty well, but I can't say for sure because we were more or less underage too for a while. You know, it took a while, and then I just don't recall. But I know you always had to knock at the door and who's signing in? That's what it was. Like, oh, well, my dad's here. Okay, well, you know, somebody had to. Everybody got round off at that. Oh, but what the hell kind of place is this? You got to be signed in, you know. And it gradually swung around, and you know, they opened up for. Like I could get in automatically because my dad was a veteran, you know, this type of thing, and it got looser and better. When they had November 11th's parade for it down to the cenotaph, there was veterans there, I bet you, I don't know how many, like everybody listed, you know, and a lot didn't come back, but a lot did. And every November the 11th, there was a big parade of Legion jerseys or uniform, you know. Oh, they had a big membership, and all the vets come out, and then they'd go in and soak up suds in the afternoon. Then they'd go out for their roast beef or turkey dinner at night, and it was a total day. I think the Legion started selling booze around 12 or 1, and I guess they quit when, I don't know what the closing time was, maybe 10 or 11, I'm not sure. But it was wonderful anyway. The Legion did well around town. And they bought, way back, I remember the ladies auxiliary bought 12 or 14 for the McCausland Hospital. Little TVs, TV was just coming in, and these were small, but at least a person in bed, it's, you know, they had something, and they donated like that, things like that. When they had the money, they helped people. And now it's come to a point where, you know, there's no surplus money, they're having trouble keeping their head above water now. But it was wonderful. The Legion did a lot of good around town. They had the band room up until oh boy, that was big, huge, and they did have a band. When I moved into my house, Webb's place, Webb's an old family name here, in the West End, the Schreiber band uniform was in there. It was blue with all fancy gold, you know, whatever it is, quarter or things here and there, and a hat. And there was a butter box. All butter boxes were common then too. That's what butter came in pound packages, and they all fit neatly. And we used to use them for storing things or making sleighs, and they had their music in this butter box. It was, and sadly, you know, blah, 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 this thing, should never have done it, you know. Like, sorry about that now, but too late now. Yeah, they had quite a town, I guess, in the old days, you know. It ended on Drummond Street. Then you look north on Drummond, that was the last row of houses. Like the north end, that far back in, we're all up there by Dadless Drive, and that was non-existent. Cemetery was in the bush more or less, because it was down behind the Mayfair there. You know, that wasn't. Mayfair was Mayfair was on this side, yeah, but the cemetery, you know where it is, down there by. But the trees were going around there a lot. Anyway, because there was no highway. Highway ran over the Welcome Sign Hill up here by northwest end of town. The old Mayfair. Nick Lickowitz built that. Right next door he built the theatre. I forget the name of the theatre. It's known, I guess, quite well. And that was wonderful. I think it was the Roxy in Terrace Bay he built. He built one here, or one or the other. And it was wonderful to be able to, nice sort of padded seats, comfortable, you know, and it wasn't that big, but it was big enough for Schreiber. And wonderful to go and see films, 50 cents or something, whatever it was. Oh. And then you put a hot dog and chip stand next to it, so, oh boy, you're all set. We used to go there after the bar closed because it was open 24 hours, I guess, for the railroaders, for the feeding and that, whatever. And you could get hamburger or whatever you wanted. And downstairs they had a 3-lane bowling alley, which was always, the ladies had, they had a wonderful league. They had 6 or 8 teams, or 4 or 5 on a team, I don't know, whatever it was. And they'd bowl like Tuesday, and you know, the men were assigned nights and the ladies were assigned. Number 1 was usually an open alley. There was a partition between 1 and 2 to hold the building up, and 2 and 3 were one complete like open area. And it was 5 pins. Nobody bowled 10 pins then. Come in a little later, but even then, I don't think 10 pins really caught on before it closed down. And the annex had a huge annex. I don't know how many rooms were in there. Opposite Suburio's store there, Sosa Suburio's, on the corner where well, that'd be the corner where the Y was. Yeah, it was, and it was great. You know, we get called for the railroad at 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, get your head down and have a coffee, and, you know, whatever. And if you come in off the road at 3, go over and BS or somebody's there, have some coffee and go home. Yeah, it was great. Y was a great spot, especially after the bar. Everybody had a few, and we had to go down there and chew the fat some more, you know. Yeah, it was great, the Y. Oh, the swamp, yeah, the Blue Swamp, yeah. The old Blue Lagoon was the name of it, but it became the swamp. Yeah, damn old swamp. Blue Lagoon, I gather. You know, what else you're going to call it, but I don't know. But these different Chinese people were in there. You want pie? Lapple lemon raisin. You know, this kind of stuff. And the bar closed, and somebody can, and you get somebody gets arguing or something. First thing you know, they show up behind the counter. One guy's got a shovel, the other guy's a pot. Just anything goes wrong here, we're gonna defend our place, you know. And I don't know whatever they meant, but that's what they did. Oh, it was great. Yeah, yeah, it was great. Nettie was from Hercot. That's my stepmother, actually. My original mother was Leona Mildred Evoy, and I don't know, she passed away when I was 4 or 5, because I can hardly remember. All I remember going to the funeral and, you know, whatever, and then Nettie Jane Bell, he was a railroader, and he had cancer, got it, whatever, and eventually after a period, he passed away. So sometime around 5 age, I was 5 or 6, they got together, and then they sold, he had the home in Thunder Bay, and they moved down to Schreiber. Stayed in the honeymoon apartments. Yeah, Rebecca's my dad used to get Northern Star, Eastern Lights, and all this stuff. Cakes going out the back door. You know, even he's half cut, he just didn't matter, didn't mind it though. Yeah, Eastern Star, Rebecca's, lady trainman, and there was a lady fireman's lodge or lady engineers, and you know, and they all had their auxiliaries. The engineers had their men's lodges, and they all had the female. And the Kinsmen were a big, heavy club here for quite a while. But as the town wilted, it just faded away. You know, things just faded away. Well, it was wonderful games in the arena there, I remember, because Tom Burke was, well, we were 6 or 7 or 8, you know, I mean, the hot dogs there were tremendous. It was nice to go get a hot dog, and, you know, because, oh boy, it was nice and soft bun, and the wiener was hot, and 2 bits or 10 cents or something. But they used to climb the rafters. Don't go there, I don't want to go there. I got a picture anyway, I'll give it to you after, showing the Schreiber team facing east. 5 players, and the rafters were there, and they used to, they'd climb, some of the rink rats would climb over these big wooden arches. They're about 4.5 feet, 5 feet high, and they went up right over, way down arches, and you're up there. I got about 10 feet up, and I said, this is enough for me. That's what happened to most of us. But some of them kept going. It's a wonder nobody ever fell. I mean, they'd be a gone goose. But they used to do that. Yeah, I don't know. That time they didn't have this fancy glass or stuff like that. They had a wire mesh, like it wasn't chicken wire. This was heavy because some of them guys could shoot. And then they started later on, when we were getting much older, they come out with the slap shot. And they can reef that puck, and that's going, that's flying. You'd stand there and you'd duck, but that stuff was not a 1/4 inch thick, but probably 3/16 woven wiring. No way you're going to go through that. And you'd flood the ice with barrels, fill them full of hot water, and then fold out the sides of them with the flooding panel there. And when you got out and you filled it, you went out and you opened them up. First they scraped the ice, get the snow off. Then they put these watering things out, 45-gallon drum, and you'd open the valve and walk around and around and around. It took 2 or 3 barrels. Between periods, it was so cold it would freeze, and it wasn't on thick. That was another thing, I guess. But they had pretty good ice. Yeah. Them lights, picture shows too, they're 4 or 5 rows, but they're up there, and they didn't have the intense bulbs they have now. And a lot of people complained it was kind of dull in there. It was really in a way, but only if you wanted to complain about it. Get in and play and shut up, you know what I mean? Nobody's going to change it. But yeah, the lights were, there was only 2 arenas built in the North Shore, Geraldton because of the highways and Schreiber's because of the highways. And that's how apparently the story was, the highway crews are for there or the town or whatever, but they got these 2 big, because building one of those big things, they're about as wide as this table here, and they go up 10 feet and then they arch in, and 10 feet or more, or another 3 or 4, and it must have been something to get them up, like they didn't have all the fancy equipment. But they did it, they got them up, yeah. Harrington Arena was their name, I guess, after a mine, I don't know, in Geraldton. Ours was just the Schreiber Arena. Another nice thing about the arena then, too, was the Mayfair was the next corner over. The Legion was the next corner over from that. So if the game wasn't a good one, stayed in the Legion. Which happened, on occasion. A lot of good times, yeah. I remember Bobby Fumerton once. I think it was him. He was a good player after. But he reefed the puck there, and you'd swear it's going to come right through the, but it didn't because of that big fancy wiring. Gavora, Seminary, because they were bringing in these junior players. We had to shop for second-hand old-timers from Thunder Bay, but they come down and they played. And Macero was pretty good, but he scored in his own net one night. There was 2 of them. One played for Terrace and one played for Schreiber. Albert Macero, I think. Yeah, all them old names. Franchi, I forget their names. They were good guys. They did their best and whatever. But street hockey and baseball, and Schreiber was a fun town to live in. Like I say, the north-south end. North end was over there or out here somewhere, but we were the south end. And we used to have an intense rivalry in baseball with the west end. Pat Anderson, Cosgroves, I don't know who else up there, and Bill of the Holland family, they were an old family there too. Everybody's sort of gone now. And we got playing at the ball field, like I say, and that was pretty stiff rivalry. And I remember I was catching like a dummy, like a dummy without a mask, you know what I mean? And sure enough, Billy Holland was up the bat. Timmy Bond, our pitcher, lived in the south end. He was pitching, I was catching with no mask. And finally, bing bang, I got a foul tip off the bat right in the beak, and that's why it's bent like a whatever. That's a story on that. But you did things. And they had a backstop too. Way back then, it was made out of 2 or 3 inch pipe, and it had an overhang so the foul balls, like the ball field was pretty significant considering that time. I remember some of the guys saying on the railroad in the later years, "Why don't you move uptown?" Well, I don't want to move uptown. I've been here all my life, and of course, naturally, people change. It's altogether probably 2 different gangs now. I'm 78 now. So things changed, but no, we had a heck of a good time playing, like I say, street hockey and do what you want, go out and have snowball fights, build dig tunnels, in the snow, and in the spring shovel, go around and say, "Well, clean your sidewalk." We would, and then later on, we'd chip away the ice and snow through the walkway or whatever, and we'd get $1 or something, 50 cents for doing that. But that's what we did, It was fun. Oh, we'd raid gardens in the summer, of course. But that wasn't bad. We didn't want to pull everything out like some people did. They'd just go in and wreck the garden. We'd take 2 or 3 potatoes, or not potatoes, but carrots, say, and bugger off down the back lane between the streets. There's no lights there. And clean them off and munch away. Yeah. Well, we didn't tear them apart, no. Oh, yes, I have nothing to regret about leaving the Schreiber at all. I feel sad the way things are going now. But, I mean, you can't, it's not yesterday, you know what I mean? Things happen. And there's going to be another gang somewhere come along, I guess. Yeah, I don't say, but, everybody is born in a certain time. That's where they're evaluating their time. I'm evaluating mine when I was here, and I'm evaluating it now. It's a vast difference. When they get older, they'll have the same. It'll either be better or worse, or they'll move away, or, whatever. So it's just the way things are. But I think Schreiber always was great. Remember the troop trains going through, Second World War, and the ambulance hospital trains coming back. There are various people with crutches and, and eye things and lost an arm, leg, and things like that. And aircraft parts or war equipment being shipped on flat cars. There were all steam engines back then, but it doesn't matter. They pulled, and they had flat cars full of war materials. I don't know what was in them. Big crates. They might have been wings or fuselage. I don't know. Nobody knew. Whatever. I seen a couple of big propellers on a flat car once. We thought they were going for war work or war ships. We don't know. But wartime traffic was pretty busy. I don't know. I've often heard the story they had a slow order on the railroad because they didn't want train wrecks. Because if they tied up the railroad, they were tying up a lot of trains. Trains were shorter then because they had steamers, and they didn't want them, a major wreck. And then the old trains weren't as efficient as now. They just bulldoze everything out. We didn't have that, so they didn't want to tie up the railroad because so much war material and troop trains that's moving. Let's keep the railroads open. They had. When the Mays prisoner war camp and the bridge at Nipigon, they put security guards on. Usually First World War vets or something, because they didn't want somebody going in and blowing them bridges up. What would you do if you took the Nipigon bridge out? CP'd be tied, and then the CN, well, they'd probably hit something up there. Who knows? Nobody knows what the enemy was thinking, other than to beat us, I guess.